All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's program titled Black Excellence in PR, hosted by the Memphis chapter of Public Relations Society of America. My name is Jennifer Sharp, and I am the president of the Memphis chapter of PRSA. I'm delighted to have you all here today as we commemorate Black History Month with a conversation featuring our amazing panelists as they talk about navigating the public relations industry, creating their own paths, and the importance of representation. I would like to first thank our VP of Programming, Jerica Williams, for pretty much planning this amazing event, and our panelists for their willingness to share their words of wisdom with us. We will begin with remarks from Dr. Felicia Blow, who is the chair of PRSA.
Hello, all. My name is Dr. Felicia Blow, and I serve as the 2022 National Chair of PRSA. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the PRSA Memphis chapter's 2022 program entitled Black Excellence in PR. But this month being our national celebration of Black history, this program did not come at a better time. The panel is stellar, and I know that the conversation will be equally exciting. But let's do something. Let's all agree. We will not just be sayers of the words, we will be doers of them as well. Engage, build relationships with those that don't look like you or come from backgrounds like yours, and consider the full spectrum and the consideration of the dimensions of diversity. Doing so will make our world and your state a better place. I'm excited, I'm encouraged. You are Black Excellence in PR. I am Dr. Felicia Blow, and you should consider yourself welcome.
Next, we will present our antitrust compliance statement. This is just a compliance statement that we present at the beginning of every PRSA meeting. I will not read it to you all, but it is on our website. That way, if you can want to read it thoroughly, you can. So next, I will introduce our moderator, who is Jerica Williams. She is the Chief of Staff and Communications for Fraser Community Schools, and our VP of Programming for PRSA Memphis. And she is also the moderator for this panel today. And she is a former television and print journalist whose work has been featured in local and national publications. So I will give the floor to Jerica as she will introduce our panelists and start the program.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Hello. So welcome again. And I'm just very excited to serve as moderator for this panel because seriously, we have an amazing group of people who possess just so much experience and lots of wisdom and insight. And as Jennifer previously said, as we commemorate Black History Month, it only made sense to recognize these communications professionals while also learning about their experiences. And so let's just begin with the introductions. And let me preface this by saying these introductions are extremely brief, and I'm not going to do these people any justice, but we will hear more from them as we get into the panel. So Cynthia Daniels. Cynthia is the Chief Event Strategist of Cynthia Daniels & Co., a full-service event and design company. Cynthia and her company have created a few signature events. I'm pretty sure that you've heard of them. Memphis Black Restaurant Week, Top 40 Under 40, and That's not top 40. What is it, top 40 under 40, Cynthia? I think so. And Memphis Black Restaurant and Black Christmas Expo. Now, we should note that Cynthia's events have garnered more than $1 million in profit for local minority-owned restaurants. Danielle Inez. So Danielle is the Chief of Staff for Shelby County Government under Mayor Lee Harris. Danielle has been actively involved in local and regional politics, and previously she served as the president of the Shelby County Young Democrats. Ms. Gale Jones Carson. So Ms. Gale Jones Carson is definitely a veteran in communications. She serves as the VP of Community and External Affairs for Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. She's also served as a spokesperson for the city of Memphis and worked in corporate communications at FedEx for more than 16 years. Jerica Phillips, and we know Jerica has been busy lately, but Jerica is the Chief of Communications and the lead spokesperson for Tennessee's largest school district, which is now Memphis-Shelby County Schools. Now, if you think you've seen Jerica before, she was an anchor and reporter for WMC TV Action News 5 for more than a decade. And we have Mr. Ron Redwing, a well-known communications and business strategies. Ron's public strategies firm that's rooted in communications recently celebrated 25 years in business. Since its inception, he's worked with several local, regional, and national clients and has been credited for providing opportunities for minority businesses through economic development projects. Just last year, Ron and his team launched the Redwing Report, providing news, politics, entertainment, and culture. And we have another veteran, very well-known communications professional, Mr. Howard Robertson. Howard founded Trust Marketing in 1991. He's also done extensive work in broadcasts, including sales manager roles for local and regional radio and TV stations. So you guys can see why I am really excited about this group. And we just want to say thank you again for participating to our panelists. We are so glad to have you. So we'll get into the diversity and your experiences just in a bit, but let's start with your journey. I would like all of our panelists to answer this as we were just talking about how you began. How did your communications, your career in communications begin? And I'll just let you guys speak freely. This is a conversation, but I see Cynthia first. So Cynthia, you can kick it off and then we'll just keep going.
All right. Well, good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me the honor to be here with such an esteemed panel. I respect everybody that's here, so I'm honored to even be in this presence. Really quickly, a little bit about me. I actually moved to Memphis in 2009 as an HR executive. My goal was to work in HR management, work for a Fortune 500 company. So coming to Memphis, PR, communications, event planning, none of that was part of my journey. But when I came here, I really didn't know many people. So I just started volunteering. And through my volunteer efforts, I really kind of fell in love with event planning, fell in love with the PR aspect of it and marketing, because it's one thing to put an event together, but you still have to get people to come. And I would have to credit Memphis Urban League Young Professionals. That's really where I got my stomping ground, and knowing, how to really craft press releases, how to make sure you connect with the right organizations. Actually, at some point, I remember meeting Jerica for the first time, fanning out, because she actually really was a big supporter of that movement and some of the things that I later did. So really through volunteering, that's where I found my love for it, and it just hasn't stopped.
So I'll go. It's crazy as I sit here and try to do the math. I started my career in public relations about 13 years ago. And so now I get to dabble in PR, but coming before a group like this, I really feel like I'm at home because so much of my experience today builds on that experience from 13 years ago in July of this year. But I started in entertainment PR here locally. I met Erica way back then, which is virtually crazy because Erica wasn't in Memphis at the time, but she was looking out for our city, and we connected online. But back then, I think I got my first check 12 and a half years ago for $100. And that kind of sealed the deal for me that people were willing to pay for services. That's all it took. And I've been charging for my time ever since.
I think you're Ron. Are you?
I was trying to follow direction. Again, I'm Ron Redwing, and it is really an honor for me here to be with so many PR professionals, some new and old friends. When I think about my career, I started, I'm going to date myself a little bit here. After I left school, I started in communications and public relations with the Catholic Diocese of Memphis, and really got involved and engaged there from a traditional communication standpoint. And then I got involved in politics and worked with then the first elected African-American mayor, W.W. Harrington, here for the city of Memphis, and really enjoyed leveraging my PR and communication skills from a political standpoint, which eventually became the path I took to start my own business. I worked for the diocese, then I worked for the city of Memphis, and later joined Methodist Le Bonheur as their director of communications. But that's the short version. I know we'll get into some other things, but that was really where I started. But I really enjoyed being engaged in the community, really been a spokesperson for several organizations, and just in understanding the need to have representation, particularly African Americans, because at that time there weren't many folk that looked like me who were in this business. I can reference Howard because I think at that time they were just about to start trust marketing. So got a chance to watch how they grew their business, he and his wife Beverly, and all the many wonderful things and impactful things they did in the community. And seeing people like Jerica and Gale and Cynthia. I remember Cynthia coming to my office saying, "Hey, look, I'm trying to get this stuff figured out. What do I do?" And I said, "Just keep doing what you're doing and you'll be fine." So it's really good to see so many representatives from business, corporate, politics like Inez and others in this industries, particularly from the corporate and business standpoint.
So I'll go next. Ron, I do want to thank you for when Cynthia came to you, that you were willing to help her, because so many people aren't willing to help others in the same field. So I will get started with, y'all know I'm 100 years old. So anyway, I got a little bit more to tell than the rest of them because they like much younger than me. So when I went to Christian Brothers, and during my sophomore year, I was trying to determine what I was going to major in, because at that time, most of us were teachers or doctors or lawyers or something like that. And so my mom had at that time been in social work, and I decided, well, I was talking to her and about that. She said, "Oh, no, you don't want to do that." She said, "You've always been a good writer. Why don't you major in journalism?" So I had to transfer from Christian Brothers to Memphis State at that time because they didn't have journalism or communication. So, but one of the things that got me interested into writing, I used to read the Tri-State Defender every week. My mom subscribed to it, and I loved that publication. So when I transferred to Memphis State, of course, I took all these writing and journalism courses, which I didn't even know at that time, know anything about public relations, so I started taking those courses. But anyway, I interned at the Tri-State Defender. That was a major dream come true for me, to be able to, work as intern for this company, and it was free. I did it free. And then when I graduated, I had several job offers, but the only job offer I had in my field was the Tri-State Defender. So I went to work for the Tri-State Defender because I didn't want to take a risk of getting out of my field and getting stuck with the money. And so after working there 3 months, there was a lady who was the general manager. She said, "Gale, you can't stay here." I said, "I can't?" And she said, "No, you got to keep moving." So after 3 months, PR job came open at Memphis Light Gas and Water. And I took that job. I stayed there 6.5 years. And I wanted to go work at Federal Express. It was a new company then. And my mom was having a heart attack because it was a new company. And I was at Memphis Light Gas and Water, good pay, good benefits. And when I left to go to Federal Express, it was only $500 more a year. I didn't leave for the money. I learned for the growth, the education, and if everybody has the opportunity to work in the private sector, it is the most amazing experience that you have. And so once I worked there 16 years in corporate communications, I went to work for Mayor Harrington, and that was in 2000. And so during this time, it's 16 years, y'all, working in corporate America is kind of vanilla. So I still wanted to do community work and be involved in the community. So I got involved in politics, and I continued to freelance for the Tri-State Defender and another African-American paper at that time. And so when I went to, I wasn't even looking for no job when I went to see Dr. Harrington. Everybody just kept sending me over there. But anyway, I had lost my son, so I was ready to do something new. And so this is something people need to remember. I just gonna drop my resume off. So Dr. Harrington said, come on in. And I tried to give him a resume, he wouldn't take it. And he said, I already know about you. So he had been watching my work, reading my work, my writing. And I got hired and worked for him. I was the media spokesperson, the face of the city, and for him for 7 years. And then I left there and went back to Memphis Light Gas and Water, because actually my dream job was the top job at Memphis Light Gas and Water. But when I was there, when I graduated from college, I saw all those levels above me. I was like, oh, Lord God, I'll never get up there. So when the job came open, I took the job. There were 3 people who applied, me and 2 other folks. And of course, Dr. Harrington was having a heart attack about me leaving, but he said, I'm not going to block you. So I took the job, and now I have been at Memphis Light Gas and Water. I got promoted to vice president 3.5 years ago. And so I am, the spokesperson, the vice president of community and external affairs. I've done every area of communications, public relations, journalism there is. So that's me.
Good deal.
So I want to jump in. Hi, this is Jerica Phillips. Certainly after Ms. Carson and her journey, she's truly an inspiration, I believe, to so many of us young leaders here in the city, especially minorities in the PR industry. So just quickly wanted to kind of journey back on my start as a young lady who was a talker, right? My mom recognized that young and had me in all these public speaking contests and writing contests in school, and just knew that I was assertive and I needed to do something with it. And so, of course, being on the yearbook and the writing clubs and all of those things, just starting off early, those really were a foundation for me to make use of my talent and my skills and earn a career and, earn dollars for that. And so I went to school and majored in broadcast journalism at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, huge SEC school that had a lot of attraction back when we were a pretty good team with, of course, so many of the college game days and ESPNs and those folks who came to town. So I worked for those folks for free in college, and then came on to Memphis, came back home and started my internship with WMC Action News 5. And from there, I give a lot of credit to Joe Bird. She saw a lot in me and pushed me to continue the work. Like I said, working for free early on, but just going behind the scenes, and many of those of my peers who recognized that I was willing to do the work, right? Learn everything, the behind the scenes of production, and not just a lot of folks who just want to be on TV and want to be the face, right? And so those skills were so important for me as I now look at where I've journeyed to public relations as the spokesperson and chief of communications with Shelby County Schools. So I do see it as full circle. Did not seek this job, especially during the pandemic. I came over right before the pandemic hit. And as you know, education has been a hot topic across the nation during a pandemic and virtual learning and all those crazy things. But people are passionate about their children. And so it has been rewarding for me to be able to advocate, right, for the work that we are doing and the progress that we are making. But again, in short, getting to know all of the honorees here today has just been awesome. They've poured so much into me. And as Cynthia mentioned, meeting so many people through service, right, in the community and through volunteering and getting out there when there's not necessarily something that you're going to get from it, but it is, right? It's rewarding to be among so many that you can gain from. And so I call myself a chief storyteller because even when I was an anchor and reporter, it was so important for me to share the humanity of this city and tell the stories of this city. And now I find that in this role here at Shelby County, Memphis-Shelby County Schools, we've got to tell the stories of the things that are happening, the teachers and the students, and so many who are beating the odds. We've had a lot of negative coverage over the last couple of days in regards to assessments and scores, but I just want everybody to understand as PR, this is hard work for all of us because we are attacked. People come up against the work that we're doing every single day, but this is again hard work, and we're doing this because we understand the importance of the narrative and shaping the story for this city. So thanks so much for allowing me to be here.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Howard Robertson, and happy also to be here. I've been in this business since 1973. You do the math, you'll find that's 49 years. So I'll spare you all the gory details of my background. But suffice it to say, I was born and raised in Memphis, grew up listening to WDIA radio, and that really sparked my interest in wanting to be in this business. WDIA radio, for those of you who may or may not know, was the first Black format radio station, first radio station formatted for African Americans in America. And so I always listen to WDIA, and I particularly love the commercials. And I thought that would be a really, really cool thing to be able to do for a living. But I couldn't say that out loud because I didn't know anybody who looked like me who was doing that. And, you know, for fear of somebody saying, boy, please, you know, you can't make no money doing that or whatever. So the acceptable thing I told people I wanted to be was a lawyer. And I pursued on that track. Went to college, majored in English, took the LSAT, graduated and got accepted to some pretty decent law schools, but decided I didn't want to be a lawyer. So I came back to Memphis to look for a job and explain to my father how I had this epiphany and I wanted to get into the marketing business, the advertising business, the PR business. That conversation did not go well at all because he didn't know what I was talking about. He expected a lawyer, and now this is somebody who did not decide to go to the law schools. But at any rate, look for jobs. In the same week, I was offered I had two job offers. One was to become a publicist at Stax Records, and the other was to become a copywriter at this for this fledgling brand new advertising department in this fledgling brand new corporation called Federal Express in 1973. And that's when they were doing their sorts that thousands of people work at now. They were doing their sort back then on 6 card tables. But suffice it to say, that was an easy choice to make in 1973. So I went to work for Stax as a publicist. If any of you know Miss Deanie Parker, thank her for me. She hired me right out of college and trained me. It was the greatest first job out of college anybody ever had. I was on the road with the Staple Singers. I was on the road with Isaac Hayes, Bar Hayes, name somebody. Even did work with Richard Pryor, Bill Cosby, Rance Allen, all kind of folks. So that's what I did. And that started my career in this business. since PR is a discipline of marketing, I'm pleased to be able to say that I've worked in every aspect of the marketing business, including advertising, research, promotions, all of that. Trust Marketing is, let's see, 31 years old this year. And we're happy to still be here. It's probably the oldest still operating marketing and public relations firm in the South. So happy to be here.
Thank you all for that. These just amazing, amazing stories. And definitely just an inspiration in your stories. So I do want to go into just kind of that conversation about diversity, right? So we know that PR remains a majority white profession. Let me make sure I get these numbers right. There was a 2018 Harvard Business Review that found that 87.9, so basically 88% of the industry is white. Only 8.3% is African-American, 2.6 Asian, and 5.7 Hispanic. So based on your experience, when you hear these numbers, why do you think there are so few Black PR professionals?
Well, I'll go first.
Okay.
I think many minorities, African Americans, I'm gonna be like Smokey Robinson a few minutes ago, many Black people, he opposed I'm African American, but being called that. Many Black people, especially when they're young, they don't even know about public relations. I didn't know about public relations until I started taking journalism courses. And so when you, and a lot of times when people graduate, they will take a job outside of their field if it pays more money, so that doesn't keep them on the track. But if you're looking at America in general, just America, any jobs that pay extremely well, and the higher up you go, you're going to find fewer of us. That can be demotivational for many of us. And also, how many of us are in positions where we can mentor young people and help pull them up and give them inspiration to stay in the PR world. But this is America. And just look at every profession. You're going to have very few of us, especially as you go up and the more money you pay. But I think it's our responsibility to help young people and mentor them and keep them motivated and pull them up when we can. And that's my spiel on that.
I'll join. I was really surprised to see those numbers when you sent this information over, Erica. 87 or 88% and only 8.5% African American. I honestly was surprised that it was that low, and I wonder how these particular positions or how it's categorized. And I'm not disputing at all those numbers. But I can tell you, just from my personal experience, when I started in this journey, I was scared to death coming back to Memphis and thinking what the opportunities would be in public relations. And to be honest with you, they were quite few. I think I was lucky, but more blessed than lucky. That I was able to come back and literally take a job. I started as an intern with the Catholic Diocese, and it was really interesting. I started working for free as a coordinator, and then I, moved into this role where I was almost just helping the guy out, and really understood the business and that, but his son had a really unique disease, and they were under this program with Johns Hopkins that whenever they called you, you had to leave. So I'd worked with him for several months, and he got the call, and he and his family literally had to pack their bags and leave to go for his son to participate in this program. And as a result,
I'm not sure.
okay, I think, okay.
Good.
As a
Good.
result of that, I was able to move into that coordinator role and that sort of thing. And I eventually became the director of communications and public relations. But I think I mentioned to you, I can remember then, and this is 88, 89, being part of this organization. And at that time in the early 90s, Gale, I don't know if you had joined or not, but I remember being one of few of any others that was a member of PRSA here in Memphis. So it's not very encouraging. And I didn't know where I would go to get that next job to move up, if you will. And it was the thing that encouraged me and that quite honestly led me to start my own firm. And what I said as a goal and mission and a commitment that I would do if I was so able to and blessed to grow a business would be to always keep my doors open for that individual who was interested in learning more about this industry, certainly in communications and public relations. And in this 25 years, I can't tell you how many young men and women that have worked with us who have left to do great things all over the country. But it was only because, and sometimes I knew they were coming to be able to say that they work for a firm, to go and work in corporate or go somewhere else. And I quite honestly welcome that because I understood that it might be the only place that they could come to get that experience. So I know that, Erica, we're going to make an announcement, but I think I shared with you that I have a competing, I'm going to leave and come back. But I think, Gale, you mentioned, when you started doing this, first of all, your mom didn't know what this was. I think Howard said that as well. And I can't tell you how many times, how often I've spent trying to explain to somebody what I do. I'm often compared to Tommy on Mars. Man, what do you do? Because people just don't know enough or a lot about this particular industry. So what I said I would do, in addition to keeping our doors open, when I was invited to serve, and guys, I really wasn't late. I just couldn't accept because I knew I had a conflict. But I thought about this. So part of what we're doing in celebrating our 25 years in business is, I think you may have seen some of the advertising where we're doing 25 acts of kindness. So as part of, or as one of our acts of kindness, I've shared with Erica that we're going to offer a scholarship to an aspiring student from Memphis and Shelby County Schools, a young African-American student who's interested in communications or journalism or whatever criteria PRSA comes up with. We're gonna offer a $2,500 scholarship for that student to be used for their accepting college or whatever they decide to do. And I know Eric and her team will come up with the criteria around that, but we do want that to be a Memphis and Shelby County student, an African-American young man or young lady. And that's part of our commitment. And what I'll say before I disappear for a few minutes, I think that's the call and challenge we must have. We must do what we can to provide information, assistance, support for those young people who are interested in PR, who are interested in communications or journalism or advertising or any of these areas we're all so blessed to be in to ensure that we change these numbers. It's one thing looking at the numbers, but what are we going to do about them? And I think each of us in our own ways, with whatever commitments we can make to enhance this industry that we love, I think we should do it. And we're going to start by doing that. And we're going to continue to keep our doors open for young people who are interested in participating in this industry.
Okay, Ron, I want to address what you asked me about the PRSA. I was very involved with the PRSA when I was much younger, especially when I was at Federal Express. And there were very, very few of us who were members. And I worked, I think I ended up being the treasurer, but so I got involved very, very young, but I didn't stay for many years. So when the young lady who's the president of PRSA called me with a council person, and she was African American, I said, I'm definitely going to support her. And I'm thankful that she's making this available for other people to see others who look like us in this industry. So PRSA, they sent out something, anyway, they sent out something with some speakers maybe a couple of years or so ago. Not one African American was on the panel, not one. So they sent me something, and I sent them a email back saying, I just used the word diversity. The woman didn't even know what I was talking about. I just said, Lord. But anyway, it was not many of us. I don't know how many are involved with PRSA now. So.
Yeah, I wanted to chime in and just say on that point, when I first started in my career, the entire board was white. So I wasn't involved with PRSA because this is not home. And so I am thrilled at this point to see the type of diversity that we have. Not only was the entire board white, the vast majority of the board was from the same firm. So no diversity in perspective either. And so I didn't get involved in that time. So this thrills me. But back to the data question, I call her Auntie Gale because she's like auntie to me. But Auntie Gale and Ron, they both described the starts of their career as working for free. And I joked about that $100, but my first year and a half was working for free, building up my portfolio before somebody said, you know what, girl, I got to pay you. And so I bring that up because there's a lot of privilege for some people in their approach to pursuing public relations and communications. I had a full-time job when I was working for free, but I was using my full-time job as leverage so that I could do this PR work. But a lot of students, they take free internships and they take free, full-time jobs just so they can build up their portfolios and they stay at home with their parents or their parents finance their lives. And when you start looking at people who are Black and brown, we don't have the backgrounds and the life experience that lends itself to that. And so there's already an imbalance just on the front end. Then on the back end, when you look at the firms that seek to hire a PR firm or a PR representative, I can just tell you guys candidly, if people call me asking for a PR firm recommendation, 9 times out of 10, they're Black. And 1 time out of 10, they're white saying, we really want to hire a Black firm if possible. And so they're trying to make an intentional decision to pursue diversity. But just a typical everyday white-owned or white-led firm is not just contacting me casually. They're contacting their white peers because there's bias in how we do business. So having people like Ron and Gale and Howard and Cynthia and Jerica and me and Erica, like I could go on and on, having folks in these roles so that we can seek out opportunities for Black-owned firms is a setup for us to be able to scale Black-led businesses and hire more Black people into those businesses to demonstrate our work, demonstrate our value. So one hand, let's create some paid opportunities for folks to get exposure to the work. And the other hand is just to remember that the people that are making the decision to hire the firms or hire the consultants to do the work, there's a bias there as well.
So
Jerica, can I say this? So
Okay.
when we are in these companies, we must not be afraid to hire people who look like us when they meet the qualifications. And so many of us are afraid to do that. And we should not be afraid. People expect us to hire our own. They have to be qualified, just like anybody who has been qualified, but you can't be afraid. And I'm just going to say this, when I worked at Federal Express, there was a lot of African-American executives. They wouldn't even speak to Black people if white people was around. We cannot be like that if we want our people to continue to grow and be professionals.
So Gail, I was just going to chime in, and you're absolutely right. I kind of notated two things during this conversation. One being representation matters, right? And then the other being there are so few opportunities and doors, as Ron mentioned, that are open for us. And so when we get in the positions, we want to hold tight and not allow, anybody else to threaten our role and our positions in these companies or in these organizations. So yes, organizations like PRSA and the diversity expansion that they are experiencing. But I mean, I can look at the Memphis Association of Black Journalists. Cynthia mentioned the urban young professionals, but it's so important for us to connect with each other. And when we're in rooms and other opportunities arise, we've got to be able to say each other's name and also open doors, as Ron mentioned, for the younger generation and those who are coming after us. And I'm pretty young in this industry, but again, I can really, say that there were so many people who saw many things in me that I didn't already see, and they pushed me and they brought me along the way. That's so important. And then, like I said, representation matters, especially when I was in the media industry and in newsrooms and the stories that they were covering. Nobody was standing up to say, hey, that's not a fair story. That's not a fair representation of who we are as a city. And so we've got to be in the rooms. We've got to see ourselves in the positions so that our younger PR professionals or those who want to go into this industry will be inspired by seeing us. We've got to get out there and tell our stories. And this is why this panel, I believe, is so important. But again, just opening the door for others, I would agree. And I'm really excited. One last thing about the internships that you all talked about paid. I'm excited about Ron's scholarship, but I put in the chat, Memphis-Shelby County Schools is the second largest employer next to FedEx. Many people don't know that. You're going to see somebody from our district working everywhere around this community, schools in every pocket, right? And so we want our students to be exposed to those who are working in IT with the district, who are working perhaps in the broadcast. We have our own TV station. We brought in our own interns and students, juniors and seniors. We're calling it Power 1000. They're getting paid above the minimum wage. We're so excited about this program because we're allowing students to work alongside professionals and businesses and corporations, but we're paying them out of our budget so that they can see you can make money in these careers. So I put it in the chat. You can learn more about the Power 1000 paid internships that are happening with Memphis-Shelby County Schools.
Thank you. And I see that. Thank you so much, Jerica, for that. I want to, and I will say this, that Miss Gale was not lying, because when I called, I had my friend Martavius to call, and she said, let me tell you, I'm only going to do it because I see diversity now. And so we are so pleased to have her. But I knew immediately, I told Martavius, she's about to tell us like it is on here, and this is what we need. But I want to Jerica mentioned stories, right? And I think this is extremely important because your stories really matter as we are, talking to the younger generation, where they can hear about the obstacles and how you may have overcome them. And so as it relates to any type of discrimination, we know that it exists, but what has been your experience, if any? I'm going to assume and make an educated assumption, if that's the thing, but what's been your experience with any bias or discrimination in the PR industry? Is there something that stands out that, kind of sticks with you?
I wouldn't say that I've been discriminated against in the typical way that we describe it, but that's largely because I have been very intentional about building out a network of Black folks around me. And like, I'll tell you, Auntie Gale, when I'm having a real tough time, I'm going to call her and say, look, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm navigating. When we first got, here with the county and the mayor's office, a lot of people were accustomed to doing business in a very specific way. A lot of our business community was accustomed to being treated a certain way, whereas as this administration, our priority is people and not so much business unless they are trying to move the needle in support of people. And so we had to get over that. And I'm a young Black person in this type of role. And so I had to learn how to navigate that. But I haven't really had, not in a way that I cared. I haven't really had people, close the door on me because I'm a Black woman, but it's because I'm usually going to Black folks to open doors, and they're supportive. Yeah, they're supportive. And so I would encourage you, seek out folks that look like you, because one thing I can say about not all, but a lot of the folks that have some experience in Memphis and Shelby County that look like us, they're trying to see us win. They don't get enough credit for that.
Let me say this about that. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's hard to answer that question because you are discriminated against in ways that you don't realize, and in a lot of cases don't ever see. Everybody has heard of institutional racism. The insidious thing about institutional racism is that it is indeed ingrained in the institution. And so there won't be any overt, well, I won't say there won't be any. There could be some, but there won't be a lot, especially in Memphis, Tennessee. There's not a lot of overt signs of discrimination. But that's because they are entrenched into the institution, and the institution has a culture all its own, and it's a culture of exclusion. And so you can be discriminated against and never even know it, never realize it, but you didn't get the business. You didn't have, quote unquote, as far as they're concerned, the qualifications when you really did. So we have to understand that. I mean, discrimination is insidious, and it's not always apparent, and it's particularly exploited or shown in institutions in which it's very, very deeply manifested is the word I was looking for. It's particularly manifested in institutions in which it's very, very deeply. And here's the thing about that. When it's ingrained in the institution, it doesn't matter who the players are. People change every day, all the time. Okay, so they're going to be different people. But if it's ingrained in the culture, if it's in the system, then it's going to remain there long after these people come and go. So it doesn't matter who's there. It could be somebody in there that looks like us. But because the culture is there, they have been trained and taught to block anybody else that looks like us. So please understand that. And that is when I talk about culture and when I talk about systems, it is deeply entrenched in the system of public relations, in the industry of public relations, advertising, and all of that. Very, very deeply entrenched.
Mr. Howard and Ms. Gale, really quickly, as you mentioned that, and you have been in the industry for so long, I'm just curious, what would you say about the progress that has been made? Because we know that, a lot of companies have vocalized their intent of diversity and inclusion. So in this industry, what progress have you seen that's been made?
Okay, so the progress that I basically have seen is more Blacks having their own companies, and that's a good thing. But one of the things that's not so good about it is when some of them rely on government dollars. And I tell small business people all the time, you're either going to be in business or you're going to be in politics. Because a lot of times, when you're getting money from government, you tied to elected officials. Do you make donations to get the ear? Are you owned by them? And I just wish that more Black companies, not just PR, were more independent of government, which, you know, if that's what it takes for them to be successful, that's what it takes. But there is a price to pay for that. And I've seen it. I've been out here in the political arena since 1988. So I have seen this, but there has been more growth. And I love to see that. And what I love to see more than anything is that they not compete with each other, because it's enough business out there. We are not each other's competition. We are not, even though some of us look at that. We get a small percentage of the business as subcontractors, but it's more than nothing. So the growth is, you know, more minority businesses, and you know, and I guess there may be more numbers in corporate America, but do I see more at the top? No, I don't. As I look around, those numbers are very real. You know, that, but but like I said earlier, that's in every industry. It's very few of us. But my concern is that we pull up each other. If you talk to people who work in community and external affairs at MLGW, they will tell you, I hire people because they're very good. And it just so happened they might be an African American, and I don't discriminate against them. I have all ages, and I have a very diverse group, and I am very proud of the people who work and support me at Memphis Light, Gas, and Water. And I'm not afraid to have folks when they're good, but they got to be good. And there's plenty of us who are good.
My answer to that in terms of progress is yes, indeed. I've seen progress, and I'm very, very happy about it over years. However, I have not seen the intentionality or the sincerity about making changes and affecting change in this industry top down as I have in the last going on 3 years. And when I say top down, I mean by some of only about 20% of our business at Trust Marketing comes from Memphis. 80% comes is national, and we've been blessed to work most recognized brands in the world, like P&G, like GM, like AARP, like so many others. But I have not seen the intentionality or the sincerity about making progress as I have since Memorial Day weekend of 2020, when the world saw a man beg, suffocate, and die in real time. Since that, major brands, major corporations have intentionally wanting to do better. Yeah. And so the real progress that I've seen has taken place in the last 3 years, quite frankly.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. I want to shift gears just a little bit, because even though I had tons of questions, I know that we're, kind of getting down to time, and this is the lunch break for many people. So I know that a lot of people on here are wondering, because again, I did not mention even a portion of the accolades and achievements of you all, but what are some things that you've learned along the way that you would say contributes to your success and longevity in the industry? I'd like to start with you, Cynthia, because of your extreme innovation in finding a niche, making up something and say, I'm running with it, and it's been extremely successful. And so if I would like all of the panelists to answer this, because I think it is extremely beneficial to hear what you attribute to your success and things that you've learned along the way. So let's start with you, Cynthia.
Sure. So I think for me, the biggest, I guess, jewel in my crown would be Memphis Black Restaurant Week. You know, that's something that has launched a national movement. I was able to be covered by a national publication, and I've gotten support from so many companies. Everybody on this Zoom has some kind of way contributed and supported it. But for me, it was about being my authentic self. I recognize Memphis is this foodie town. We've got Jewish festival, Italian festival, all these food festivals, but nothing for our own community. And so when I launched the name Memphis Black Restaurant Week, I got a lot of pushback, not only from the others, but from my own community. Why does it have to be Black? Why can't it be African American? Why can't it be urban? Why can't it be during Black History Month? Because I want it to be when I want it to be. For me, Memphis weather is crazy in February. I knew I wanted this spring kind of family reunion feel, people meeting up with their friends and having great lunches and dinners. So for me, it was about creating something that I just had a vision in. And it wasn't about everybody celebrating it. It was about creating something for the people that I knew needed it. It was about helping those restaurant owners get the visibility. They're all hidden jewels because they don't have the marketing dollars. They don't really have those extra dollars to get on TV and do commercials and have radio advertisements. So here's a way to collectively show people, if you're intentionally spending your money, $15 here, $25 here, how you can help businesses to sustain. And so because I didn't give into that pushback of, well, maybe it shouldn't be a Black thing. Maybe it should be for everybody. No, it's okay to celebrate our community in a majority Black city. And really Black Restaurant Week kind of just kept rolling out. You know, after that, it was the 40 under 40 urban elite professionals. At the time, there were other, lists that are great lists, and they only honored 3 to 5 people every year. That bothered me. I said, I know firsthand 40 people I can name that I have volunteered with, that have done great things with, and they need to be celebrated. So for me, it was just being my authentic self, wanting to celebrate other peers in the community. And you look up, I've done it 5 years now, and I've looked at those other lists, and now it's 50-50. So you have to do what feels good to you, and the change will come organically. So that's what helped me.
Thank you.
So I'll say there are a lot of folks that look at Cynthia and admire Cynthia's work, and I'm one of them. There are other people that are like, well, I had that idea too. And I've said this to Cynthia, so I'll say it here. I think Zuckerberg said it best: if you could have created Facebook, you would have created Facebook. And so Cynthia is someone who has ideas and she executes on them. And then every single year they get so much better. They start off bomb and then they get so much better every single year. And it's something that I admire. I had an opportunity to work with her recently. And so I got to experience the professionalism and just the awareness of all things up close and personal. And it inspires me in my work. And she's sweet while she does it. I'm mean, but Cynthia is sweet while she executes. And so it's fantastic. And so just had to you, Sam.
And so you see how she also brands herself. She has a shirt on that says CD and her name under there. Why would you promote anybody else other than yourself? So when y'all see me with my mask on, all my masks got Gale on them. My name is anybody else. And that's branding.
Very inexpensive branding, and it's simple. So you guys got a tip out of that. I still want more from you, Ms. Gale, but Danielle, I know that you give us a little bit more. What will you attribute to your success and what you've learned along the way?
So for me, it's just being open. I could have never predicted that I would be in the role that I'm in right now. I think my first C in school was social studies. So I never thought that government and working in politics would be for me. For a long time, I wasn't really drawn to history until I got older. Didn't know the 3 branches of government. Like I could go on and on, but I've always been drawn to people who are passionate. And so again, I mentioned early on, I got started in entertainment. That's because I saw people in Memphis that were a part of an undercurrent, but they were amazingly talented, and I wanted more people to know about them and their talent. That's what drew me to working with them. When I transitioned to small businesses, it's because I saw people that had a passion for the service or the product that they were providing, but they needed more customers. They needed the media to help, get the word out, and they needed more structure around what it is they were building. And when I transitioned to government, I went to Mayor AC Wharton and I said, hey, you got a lot of programs that are being underutilized and the public doesn't know about them. I want to help you tell the public. And he was like, okay. And that was my transition into public service. And then with Mayor Harris, at the time he was a state senator, and I heard rumors that maybe he should run, and he was this up and coming young Black person that had such big dreams and hopes for Memphis and Shelby County and what all we could be. And so I got somebody to give me his phone number. They gave it to me. I texted him and said, hey, I think we should do lunch. To which he was like, sure, sounds good. And, we didn't really know each other. We just kind of knew about each other out in the world. And we met and we had lunch, and I begged him to please run for this office, and promised him that I intended to support him along the way. And that transitioned into me eventually managing his campaign and joining his administration. But I did all of that because I thought he was a good person who had a heart for Memphis and Shelby County. And I continue to thank him because I had very limited experience with politics and government when we first connected. But he trusted that my heart was in the right place and my intentions were in the right place. And he trusted that my skills were such that I would pick up on what I needed to learn along the way. And I think he's left, but he was on this call earlier. Y'all, he's a mayor. He got plenty of things to do, but he continues to show up and try to support me. And so I'm just appreciative of that. But I'm also, grateful that my mom and my daddy wired me such that I'm willing to take risks. My mama doesn't always like when I take risks, but they wired me such that I do, and they continue to pay off. And I just continue to show up for whatever God has in store for me. And so far, I've had no regrets.
Yeah. So just even what we can take from this even right now is that this is not for the faint at heart. You have to be able to feel comfortable branding yourself. And if you're not comfortable, fake it till you make it. And then because you can't just be quiet and get opportunities. So Jerica.
Thanks, Erica. Certainly, I concur with Danielle in just the ability to connect with leadership who believes in you, right? And so, I took a break from news for a second. I was over at Mayor Luttrell's office in a juvenile justice program where I was working to do social marketing where children had mental disabilities, but they were being locked up, right? And no one was really digging deeper into the childhood trauma or the issues that they were facing. But there was a leader there, Dr. Alta Stewart, who believed in me. And she said, the work that you're doing is so important with storytelling. I want to give you this opportunity. And then I went back to news, right? Because my passion was still journalism. And then I was kind of thinking about, hey, do I want to do something else? And as I was kind of exploring career transitions, the superintendent called. He was new in his role. He was interim, which anybody would be like, hey, do I want to take a job with somebody that doesn't have their official job, right? But he saw so many skills and gifts in me that pushed me, right? Because I didn't want to go into a leadership position. I said, let me be your PR secretary. Let me help to raise the profile of the district. But I didn't want to lead an entire department. But it's about growth and being uncomfortable at times. And so I think that's a highlight of my career, just stepping outside of what I thought I should be in, what lanes I should be in, and exploring opportunities. I know Cynthia shaking her head because that's exactly what, I think she's told her story so many times of just stepping outside of these boxes that we put ourselves in. But certainly even going back to my parents, as Danielle talked about, and I kind of mentioned that earlier about how my mom saw some things in me. It's so important as parents that we nurture the gifts and the talents in our children, and we recognize them and we start to encourage them to walk in those gifts that God has given us. And so my mom, certainly I give her so much credit for my strength and my resilience. A lot of people, you all know my personal journey as a mom of 4 children, one of which my oldest is in college now. I had her my senior year of high school, and it's again full circle for me to see her now walk into her dreams and, just being a statistic, right? And then my youngest baby having a disability and being able to now advocate for her, such a highlight for me because didn't see myself in this position, but certainly so many people who have believed in me, I'm now able to advocate for others. And I just count it as a blessing to sit in this seat now, a product of this district, a parent of children in this district, and be able to represent so many families who are underserved and unrepresented in this city. So again, I definitely give all glory to God for this opportunity and for so many others who have opened doors and continue to pull each other up.
Thank you. And really
One
quickly,
thing-
Mr. Robertson and Ms. Gale, because I have asked you so many questions, but I know that our guests want to ask you questions as well. And so we want to allow a few minutes for Q&A. So if you can very briefly answer my question so we can get to the guests' questions as well.
Okay, I'll be very, very brief. In terms of takeaways and things that I've learned along the way, they go back to what I was taught and told long time ago by my parents and my grandparents. And that was quite frankly that in the skin we're in, we cannot afford to or even think that we can go through this life successfully being mediocre. Won't happen. Won't happen. We cannot afford to be. You gotta, whatever it is that you do, you gotta own it. You gotta be 9 times better. You heard terms of that small, less than 10% of us that are even in this business. So you can't expect to be in the business and stay in the business and be average. Whatever it is that you do, do it. Do the fool out of it. Be the best. Make it known that you are the best. And to demonstrate that you are the best. Because I tell you, it's a whole different thing when you between working for somebody in a corporate position and then going out here on your own. When you go out here on your own, it's a whole different ball game. You have got to be able to take your clients, let's say, to the next level. And you got to know how to do that. And you got to make substantive change. And that's worked very, very well. Taking organizations and people and clients to a place that they've never been before has worked pretty well for folks in my house, particularly me and my wife. So that's the thing that I would recommend that you do. Own it. Be the best.
And I piggyback on what Howard was just saying. You have to have people working in corporate America to hopefully open doors for others who look like us. But it is extremely hard having your own business. You have to work harder at that than anything if you want to be successful. My good friend Deidre Malone used to be a vice president of public relations at St. Jude, ASAC St. Jude. And when she talked about leaving St. Jude, which paid very well and had good benefits and going out on her own, I said, well, she done lost her mind. But anyway, so 18, 19, 20 years later, her company is doing extremely well. She got her sons involved. And it takes a lot of dedication. Deidre has helped a whole lot of people, hired a whole lot of folks' children. So when you step out here on your own, you do have to be prepared. But young folks, you have to be 24/7. And that's my motto at work. I work 24/7. Staff who work for me, they don't even, and when your staff see you working hard, rolling up your sleeves and stuff, they don't mind either. When you reward and recognize them, they don't mind. So you cannot be no 8 to 5 employee and think somebody gonna promote you or see you as a viable person on their team. You must always listen. You must always watch, and you got to work hard. You got to deliver. You just have to deliver. It's a lot of people. When I have job openings, say for a communication specialist, I'm telling you, I may have anywhere from 200 people who apply for those jobs. And I look at experience. I also look at job hop. If you job hop a lot, I'm not hiring you because I want a stable staff. So, your experience is very, very important. Working hard is important. Listening, learning, it's all very important. And I can't say enough that I every day of my life, I try to make sure I'm helping somebody. When people are speaking about me, got their 3 minutes at the podium when I'm in the casket somewhere, I want people to say, Gale did as much as she could to help folks, to pull people up. That is extremely important. When people have helped you, you must help others. Even if nobody's helped you, you got to help others. That is the only way we're going to continue to grow professionally and spiritually.
Thank you. So wonderful, wonderful advice. And I know we could have this conversation for some more hours, but I want to allow our guests to ask questions. You can come off of mute to ask your question, or if you like to, you can just put it in the chat and just let me know who you're directing, or let us know who the question is directed to. Any questions?
Hi, all. My name is Mackenzie Walker. I work for a leading manufacturer of hair gels, Ampro Industries, here in our beloved city, Memphis, Tennessee. And my question is for anyone who would like to answer. But as a young Black professional navigating in this PR communications marketing world, I've come to realize that sometimes our assertiveness can be channeled into the angry Black woman stereotype. So how do you all as professionals combat that?
Well, people, I don't combat it too well. One time I was in leadership Memphis. I'm a Black woman, not only who got sense and education and experience, I'm a Black woman with a mouth, and that's a problem for many people. And believe me, it's a problem for some Black people. I remember I was in leadership Memphis class one time, and they want you to talk about race relations, and then when you do, you label angry Black woman. I remember being on the board one time and speaking up for my people about contracts and this, that, and the other. After one meeting, this big burly man got in my face, nose to me, and said, "You a troublemaker." So it's very difficult. And I do tell young people, when you're at the table, you need to speak up for your people. You don't have to do it like Gale, but you need to speak up. And sometimes when you're at the table and you ain't speaking up, sometimes people think you don't have no sense. So ma'am, it depends on who somebody like me, I don't have a problem with you speaking up, but you do have to know who you're talking to. Now, if you talk, some people, they don't want to hear it. But anyway, the goal is to get the job. Then when you get the job, after your 6 months, you can be you. Unless Gale hiring you, you could be you on the way in.
I know that's right.
So Gale trained me. But my thoughts mirror hers, and I'll just tell you, I don't have a lot of experience with people not being able to receive my truth. They might not like it, but they can receive it. And the reason why they can receive it is because it's going to be thoughtful, it's going to be well researched, and I know what I'm talking about. And I can read the room. And so, like Ms. Gale said, if folks don't want to hear it, I just let it go. I told them, I've done my part. But I speak to my team, and a lot of them are on this call too. And I say, y'all don't have to say it the way I would say it. I'm gonna tell you what I would say, but you don't have to say it like me. But you do have to speak up for yourself. And that's regardless of if you're Black, if you're female, or if you're young. All of those things are working against you if you go into a room and you're silent. If you know that you research a great idea and you pitch it and somebody says, "Oh, that's not true, it doesn't work like that," or nobody ever does that, speak up for yourself and say, "Well, actually, I found this place and this place and that place, and they did it and they had great results." That's not disrespectful, that's not rude, and that's not something you should avoid doing. You have to communicate your value. And so don't let anybody shut you down or shut you up when you know you're smart, ever. because they'll try it, and you'll never be in an environment as a Black woman. You will never be in an environment where the environment is just naturally level. And so if you're waiting for that, it's never going to happen for you. And so you have to be prepared to articulate your value and not be afraid to do so.
I would agree on the preparation. I think both Auntie Gale and Danielle talked about, just being in an environment where you know what you're talking about, right? And you've got to come in the room prepared. I think Mr. Howard also spoke to that too. You can't be mediocre. We've got to work so much harder to get in that room. And when we say something, we have to know what we're talking about, and you earn that respect. And people turn around and say, okay, I can respect the fact that she's also researched and come in with this knowledge. And so, I know growing up for me, I remember my auntie saying, oh, why is her voice so deep? I grew up with a complex about that. My voice was deeper than most other women. And so I think just my tone has always been an issue too. People would assume that I'm being aggressive just because my voice is deeper. But again, I learned to leverage that in the media industry because they like a solid tone, when you're an anchor or reporter. But certainly I just learned to balance the times when I needed to be assertive in the newsroom or among corporate leaders when I've been in meetings. But you can't ever be afraid to speak your truth, as so many of these other ladies have said. And people will respect that you did once at the end of the day.
Thank you for that. I want to get to another question because we have a few, but what advice would you give to your college age self entering the PR communications industry as a Black professional? It's a good one.
Well, let me just say what's really, really important, at least for my organization, everywhere I've been, when you're in public relations, I look for people who have strong writing skills, because I think that if you can write, you can pick up everything else. But that is one of the things I look at, how well a person can write.
Amen to that. It's difficult to find good writers. I would say that for sure. In just the communications department here at the district, we put out a lot of messaging. We have 14,000 employees. They want to know first before the media, breaks a story. And so we've got to be able to tell the story. You can't get out and talk to everybody. You got to write. You got to send emails. You got to send communication. And when it doesn't make sense, or when it's not articulate and it doesn't, have a key message, and you're not speaking to the narrative that they understand, it's very difficult. So certainly anybody who wants to go into this industry, please, grammar, English, focus on those foundational skills, right? Now, it's not always about, getting out on the front of the camera. It's really about the foundational skills of the English language.
Mr. Howard, you're mute. Mr. Howard, you're on mute.
You're muted.
Unmute.
I'm sorry.
No
How about now? If I had to speak to my college age self, I would tell that guy that to remember that the onus to make people feel comfortable with you is on you. It's not on them, it's on you. I was in sales. I was in media sales. And when I first got in it, I ultimately did extraordinarily well, and it was wonderful. But when I first got in it, I had this very IBM-ish kind of sales approach. I knew what I was talking about. I knew my product and whatnot. So I didn't spend any time with, on pleasantries and whatnot. I went straight to the pitch, and my sales were awful. And I had to find out the hard way that somebody told me people are intimidated. And I'm going, I got defensive. I'm going, what do you mean intimidated? What? They said, look, ask yourself how many 6'4" brothers dressed to the nines, not breaking verbs or saying, you know what I'm saying, or you know what I mean, or whatever, looking them deeply in their eyes, do they have in the course of a day talking to them or calling on them? And the answer to that was none. And so I had to make sure that I could come into a situation and diffuse the whatever levels of intimidation were already there just because of my presence. And that the onus to do that, if I cared about doing well in sales, was on me. We got to remember that. I mean, we can't go into situations with our fists balled up. I'm not saying suck up. No, don't do that. However, make sure, be amenable, be likable, be somebody, that people want to be around, and all of that. That gives you a particularly added advantage. So that works out very, very well. That's what I would tell my college age self. And I would have say I could have made a lot more money than I did.
Do we have one more that wants to chime in? And in that question also, because I'm trying to combine someone else's, just any advice about finding a mentor?
I'll jump in on that one. So honestly, you just have to ask. Most of my mentors, I sought them out. I knew exactly what companies they worked for. So I just sent an email introducing myself, what I was interested in. They were either going to say yes or no. A few of them said, yes, I would love to. Some of them said, I don't have the time to commit. So I would come back and say, can I get 30 minutes every time? So I think it's about, making sure you know what you're wanting to learn from this mentor. Don't just say, oh, you got this great job, I want to be just like you. Be intentional when seeking out a mentor.
And it also
LinkedIn. I'm sorry, go ahead, Gale.
It also doesn't have to be a person in the profession that you're in. It just needs to be someone who's knowledgeable and who's willing to take time to guide and direct you on some information, that some things that you're interested in. I participate in Leaders of Color, and I have participated in that since they have been here, maybe 2018, 19, or whenever. And so that's a great opportunity, just one opportunity for me to mentor and work with and coach young people, men and women, who want to go into the political arena. And I have formed great relationships with them. When they graduate from the program, I still have relationships with them. I still try to help pull them up. I try to get them on boards. I do all kinds of things. One guy, I helped get him a job. This lady called, and you would have thought he walked on water when I got through talking to her. He did get the job. But that's another outlet right there, Leaders of Color, or joining. If you get on boards and getting to know people, like, for example, the Women's Foundation, amazing women on their board, but they have a program for young professionals. If you don't necessarily have to be on the board, but you get exposed to women with money and power and influence. So join some of these organizations, the young, the NAACP, the Urban League. Just join some of these professional and civil rights organizations, and you will find all kinds of people who are willing to help you. And you might not agree with everything they say, but listen, just listen. And some of the stuff that you will be able to take, and some of these folks will help pull you up. So it's just being open yourself to joining and different organizations and meeting people.
I would add, your mentor, it doesn't have to be a formal mentoring relationship either. Like Ms. Gale said, one of my best mentors, she's a realtor and a CPA. So she's not working in government, she's not working in communications, but she's an excellent communicator. She's an amazing professional. She's very well connected, and she cares about me as a person and wants to support me growing professionally. And so she's one of my mentors. I call my mentors big sisters if they're, 2 years older than me, and aunties otherwise. But she's one of my mentors. But there was no formal, will you be my mentor, that happened. We connected. Actually, she sold me my house as a part of this process. But before that, we connected. We would go to have lunch sometimes. We would see each other at various events, and we bonded over mutual interests. and it just grew from there. But I also want to say, because I don't know who asked that question, but as a Black woman, I think it's also important that you don't just seek out mentors that look like you. So some of my mentors are also men, and I need people that are in the room and that are going to raise my name in that room. And so if you're in the room and you're prepared to advocate for me, I want you to know my name. I want you to be invested in my success. And so, you know, I want to talk to you about where I'm trying to go and learn and grow from you as well. So I would also encourage you to think in terms of having a diverse, you know, personal board of advisors to help guide you.
So thank you so much. I have never been at a panel, or it's been a long time that I actually didn't want it to wrap up. But I know that everyone has to go back to their work schedule and their busy days. So I just want to thank our panelists again. I know that we did not get into all of the questions in the chat, but this is a good opportunity for, I think we have some students to maybe reach out and get your questions answered from some of our amazing panelists. So thank you again. And I don't know if Mr. Ron is not back yet for his presentation, but it was essentially, I'm just going to say it really quickly. He wanted to present the $2,500 to us as we, you know, kind of present it to an aspiring communications professional. And so we will provide details for that later. But I want to hand it back over to our Madam President, Ms. Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Erica, and to our amazing panelists. And also thank you to Ron for that gracious donation to us. And so we will definitely use those funds to help aspiring professionals as well. So I am going to briefly close out with some announcements. Let's see here. First off, happy Black History Month. I'm so glad that we were able to put I'm so happy that we were able to honor this month with this panel. And also, I want to publicly announce that we have 2 diversity and inclusion co-chairs versus Erica Conley from FedEx Freight, and we also have Leonard James from Enzo Entertainment. So I do want to publicly announce our 2 new co-chairs. And so be on the lookout for more information about our diversity and inclusion efforts. I also want to highlight our statement that we had presented last year, and it is also on our website as well. Also, I want to encourage our professionals to get their APR. Go to voicesforeveryone.prsa.org to learn about this information, diversity, equity, and inclusion, civility, and civic engagement. And please mark your calendars for Thursday, March 4th at 11:30 a.m., where we will have our first professional development session on how to master the art and science of social media. Information about PRSA. If you're interested in joining PRSA, please reach out to our membership chair, who is Jonathan Watkins, at membership@prsa.org. There are also opportunities to join our many task forces. So please reach out to me if you're interested in joining any of our task forces. And if you also want to become a sponsor for the year for any of our upcoming events, please reach out to me as well. We are also on social media on various platforms. And last but not least, thank you again for attending Black Excellence in PR. Thank you to Erica. Thank you to our panelists. And you all enjoy the rest of your day.